Hello and welcome to Mike's Garage. If you've already subscribed, thank you. If you haven't subscribed, please do. When you do, be sure and tap the little notification bell so you'll be notified every time we put up a new video. If you tap a like, we appreciate that too. Okay. You know, there's a whole bunch of projects we've got going on, and we're waiting on so many things. There's so many things up in the air. And the thing to remember when you're building a bike and everything in your life is going into it, everything else needs to be taken care of in the meantime. And I realized it's been a little while since I changed the oil on Babydoll. And I said, well, I don't think I've shown that in any of the videos. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to change the oil in my 52 Pan. This is a bike I ride most of the time currently. It gets a lot of miles on it. If you're looking at it in the video and you see some spots of dirt and crust and grease and oil, it's because Babydoll gets ridden a lot. And if I want to seal up all her leaks, all I have to do is take her apart and put her back together again. But she's together and just weeping a little here and there. It's okay. So let's get to it. I got the seat out of the way. The way I do it is with a bungee cord and a rag so nothing gets hurt. And the seat is now raised and out of the way. This is an accessory of the time. This is called it was called a battery cover because it covers the battery. And to me, since I changed this thing over to 12 volt, there wasn't any other way that I could think of to make it really look good except just put a cover over it. And I had this accessory cover, and I thought, well, gee, that'd be nice. I had to adapt it a little bit, but it fits. Stainless steel, I sure like it. And that gets me right down to the oil tank. Now, before I open the oil tank, I know it's not low on oil because I checked it a couple days ago. Let me mention this here. The reason there's a block of wood and this plate here, this holds the later 12-volt battery that I've got in there. It was a way I could make it fit and work and be nice and secure inside the oil tank in place of the old 6-volt battery, which was a real long, tall, skinny thing. Okay, what I like to do is get the oil draining first before I let the air in so that the oil starts draining rather slowly. So if you come over here, Mike, and show the drain plug on a Panhead, knucklehead, most of the old bikes that had the horseshoe type oil tank, when I say old, I mean up to about 1964, the plug is right there. Takes 3/4 inch wrench. And I know we've talked about this before on the channel, where a lot of people say, well, I use aluminum foil, I use a this, I use a that. I'm still using cardboard, and it works pretty well for me. That's not to say that your way isn't better. It's just a habit. I just tear up some cardboard and stuff it in here, and it keeps the main part of the oil, the major part. Haha, there we go. I got a handful of it anyway, didn't I? But there is the drain plug, and the oil's coming out. And right down that piece of cardboard. Yeah, we can probably speed it up a little bit by taking the dipstick out of the top. Oh, I like that. I hope everybody enjoyed that. That was good. Have a handful of oil, Mike. All right. So now, we'll take the dipstick out. Now there's a copper gasket on this dipstick, and I usually tighten it up pretty good, and it seals very well. But this is a nice original dipstick. And there's the gasket, which I think somebody actually chromed at some point, but it seals. So the dipstick is out, the oil is draining. I might want to mention here at the same time, I always use a nice metal drain pan for my oil. It's usually a baking pan or a restaurant pan of one kind or another. And the reason I do that is because I can wipe them real clean, look at them, and see if there's any metal particles or anything in my oil. So I clean them real good before I use them. And before I dump this oil out, I will be looking through the bottom of the pan. Okay. Well, we've gotten that part taken care of. Now this bike also has, let me wipe this stuff up real quick. That came off my hand. Okay. All right, now, this is always a mess, but this is an accessory of the day, oil filter. It's in the return line, so you don't have to worry about filling it with oil or anything that you're going to get air bubbles or anything else. It fills up, the air goes into the tank, and you're done with it because it's in the return side. Now, getting this thing apart is always a slight mess. It's just the nature of the beast. Now, there are several aftermarket suppliers that carry reproductions of this oil filter assembly, and every one of them I've seen is pretty nice. They're actually real good duplicates of the original. They're probably all made in the same factory, but several companies carry them, and I've put a lot of them on people's bikes over the years, and they're nice. I just like to run an oil filter. Okay, this is going to make a mess no matter what I do. So here it comes. I'm taking the cover off, just letting it thread right down the stem that goes through the center of this thing. There's a washer under there, and or no, it's actually a paper gasket. And there it is. All right. So now we'll just keep taking this cover down. It's just a can. Now, as soon as I get past that stud, the oil's going to run out, and I'm going to let it just sit there and run for a minute. And it's just coming right out of there. You see the back side of this thing, I couldn't reach it when cleaning the bike, so. Oh, there it is, it's clean. I knew it was. All right. And we're just going to take that little can and dump the oil out of it. In fact, I think I'm ready to wipe it out already. No matter how I do this, I always make a mess. It's just part of the program. Now, there's only a couple of different filters on the market, and generally you take what you can get, and the ones that I have here are fine. Just having a filter at all on it is pretty wonderful. Looks like I ran out of paper towels, but that's all right. All nice and clean. Now to get the filter off of there, There's two nuts on the bottom of the stud, I believe. Oh, wait a minute, there's only one. Sometimes there's two on them. I know what I wanted to show. Okay, there's the nut and the washer. What I wanted to show is there's a couple different brands of these filters. Okay. Okay. There's a couple different brands of these filters. And if you have these that are made up like this, that's fine. If you have the other ones that don't have these ends on these, and you pull one out of there that has those ends, get those ends off the filter and save them for next time. Because you may use a different kind of filter next time and need those ends to put on them. Okay, there's this gasket here. And that's about all there is to it. That filter is done. It's done its job. And we'll replace it with a new one. Now, you always want to look up in here. In fact, I need to do that real quickly. And see that the gasket is in place. It's a real nice little gasket that goes in here that cup goes against. And just as a matter of course, just the routine deal. And by the way, we can get this cardboard out of here now. And I'll throw it on the floor like a slob, but you know I'm going to pick it up just as soon as we're done with the video. There we go. Always want to make sure that stud's good and tight in there. Then, a little bit of white lithium grease all the way around on that gasket. And that will just seal up wonderfully. Now you can actually get little gasket kits for these filters. So if you mess one of those gaskets up, it took me a long time getting used to them. I'd put them together and they'd leak. I don't know if I've just grown up or something. They just don't seem to bother me anymore. We seem to get along real well, me and these filters. Okay, this is the top. You can see right there, that's where that gasket goes. Now I want to get the nut that goes on the bottom of that, which I set right here somewhere. No, that's not it. This over here is it. Okay. A nut and a washer. Okay. This is going to go to the bottom of it. Let me push this right up in here. Look and make sure it's seated nicely. I get to inspect that white lithium I put on the gasket. And there it is, all tightened in place. A lot of guys use a lock nut on that too. I don't seem to have any trouble with it. Sometimes I've had 2 on there, sometimes 1, but never any difficulties with it. So there it is. Now we'll take the cup, wherever I put it, right over here, which is all nice and clean, inside and out. There, that's a little nicer. And that white lithium grease is going to seal up all the way around there. Now I've got some gasket sealer here. And I'll put a little bit of that right on the bottom of this, because they will leak right out the bottom. So you kind of need to do it. There, I've got it on there now. I've got the gasket on there now. You see that gasket? You get that old piece of gasket material off of there. Get off of there. There you go. Now the washer, same thing. Coat one side of that washer, which is a little easier than coating a paper gasket in your hand. There it is. We'll put it on there. And it is on there. So we'll put that right there. Keeping your finger on that thing. But as you push it up in there, everything goes into place, and you put the nut on. It's like, how many things can you do with your hands all at once? Obviously, quite a few. So, we tighten that nut. Make sure that that canister is seated real well in its gasket. Tighten it up. Now we've changed the filter. We've drained the oil. And I'm going to let that oil drip just a little bit longer. As soon as it's done dripping, I'll put the plug back in there and I'll pour the oil in. I've got my funnel. And I'm probably going to get a lot of questions as to what oil I use. And I'm sorry, I can't advertise brands, and so I don't. That starts the whole contest of synthetic versus dinosaur and all that sort of thing, and we're not going to do that. So, I think we're ready to go here. As to what weight I'm using, Mike is telling me to say what weight, and I really don't even like to say what weight. You know, factory back in the day would have recommended 50 or 60 in hot weather, or 60 if the motor's worn, or every time it gets too worn, go to the next viscosity. I'll tell you honestly, some people agree with this and some people don't. I have a tendency to run 20/50 oil. And that's what I've been running in Babydoll for quite a while, and she does very well on it. So that should answer that question. So anyway, all I'm going to do next is put the plug back in and pour the oil in, and I don't think anyone needs to be taught how to pour oil. I use a funnel. I think that's a good idea. And at the same time, as long as I'm here, I still want to leave that there, but I can show. Here is the fill plug for the transmission. And this is a big 1 1/8 size plug. So I have a 1 1/8 size wrench. You want to be sure and not lean on that wrench too hard. It's a great big wrench. You don't need to over tighten that plug. But I will top off the transmission oil if she needs any. So that's it for now. Again, we've got a whole bunch of stuff coming up. I'm waiting for things to come back from the machine shop. And those guys are being wonderful, no complaints here. So until that stuff comes back, we're just going to keep doing some maintenance. So until then, see you out on the road.